How's it going, guys? This is John Arnwood reporting with She Got Game. I have a lovely guest here today, a highly anticipated guest. She's extremely busy, so for her to make time for us, we're appreciative. And she's the current lead sideline reporter for the WNBA Chicago Sky. She also reports for University of Illinois Chicago and WCIU, as well as the host of the Sky Unguarded. The former Syracuse grad is actively shaping her brand while collaborating on, with the WNBA organizations to deepen her fan connection. Give it up for a rising star and a very respected reporter in the field, Kalia Butler. How's everything going with you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, man. Like I said, just really excited to have you on, and it means a lot for not only myself, but just the brand and all the viewers and stuff to have you on. It's kind of cool to tap in. So really cool.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. To kick things off here at She Got Game, we have a segment we call the She Got Game moment, right? And here at She Got Game, pretty much this is a moment in your journey where you know you're very talented and you knew, you could take this to the next level. For example, if it was a particular moment on air or, a particular conversation you had, what would you classify as your She Got Game moment in your early career?
I think that's a good question because I feel like it comes from myself, but I also feel like it comes from others. I think my kind of moment was probably doing I would say the first Sky game I had. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. I would say people people believing in me or like when people just kind of talking to you being like, yeah, like, like you have the look for it or like you have the talent for it. It's not that I don't have like self-belief, but it's just like, when other people can see that in you or you tell people like what your job is and they're like, "Oh, I could already see that for you." I'm just like, "Oh, okay, like maybe I'm on the right path then." Like that sounds good. But I would say the moment that I was like, okay, I love doing this and this is where I want to be was the very first Sky game I had, the first home game. And I got to interview Dwayne Wade. And I love Dwayne Wade. Like, obviously, I'm from Chicago. So just, him being there and just being able to talk to him. And we actually had the same math teacher. Like, he had her in high school and I had her in middle school. And like, people don't know, I used to like, my parents know this, but like I used to wait for the day that I could meet Dwayne Wade to tell him this like fact because I loved the Heat. My dad used to be so confused because my dad's from Boston. He was like, okay, like do you, I guess. But I used to love the Heat, like LeBron, Dwayne Wade era. And I remember like going to my first Bulls game purposely because they were playing the Heat. And I was just like screaming at the top of my lungs because I loved Dwayne Wade. So yeah, basically I've been waiting since middle school to tell him that the same math teacher. But yeah, and he was just super cool. He was like wonderful to talk to. So I think that was the moment I was like, okay, like my job actually is pretty cool.
No, that's interesting too. I guess a little fun fact. So you were a fan of the Heatles more than because at that time you had Prime D Rose, and Chicago's probably the most exciting it's been in a while. But you were a big fan of D Wade and the Heatles in that era.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I don't know why. I feel like sometimes I just wanted to go against whatever the grain was. Like I love Derrick Rose too, don't get me wrong.
Uh,
But I think just during the time I was like, I think it's also just like having that connection at like a young age of being like, oh, well, my math teacher, like that's so cool. So I think that always I was like, I'm connected to Dwayne Wade and he doesn't even know. So I think that just made me like a big fan. I was a huge OKC fan for a good portion of time when it was like Russell Harden. So yeah, I don't know. Like I used to like I would just be drawn to a team when I was younger. I'd be like, this is my team now. And my family would just be like, okay, like, support who you want to support.
I found great success at sideline reporting on several different levels, collegiate, professional, and I'm assuming to get your foot in the door, you also probably did a little bit of middle school, high school, whatever the case is, right? I want to know from your perspective what makes a great sideline reporter, or excuse me, what makes a great sideline report or story for you? Are there themes you're always trying to surface, or are there specific angles you're looking for? And what kind of stories stand out outside from the box score, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I would say that for me personally, I always really like being able to add evergreen stories whenever I can. Like if I had a really good conversation with a player before the game, or even like it could be like a month ago, but it just fits the situation at hand to bring that story up. Or even just like, for example, this season, Angel obviously debuted like her new shoe and just being able to talk to her pregame and the reasoning as to why she created the shoe, the color choice, her being from Baltimore. Just like I enjoy anything that connects, kind of to your point in the introduction, that connects a fan with a player. Like I'm just the in between. My job is to, go be in the huddles, be near the bench. What are the players saying to each other? What is the coach trying to emphasize in the huddle? What look did somebody give Dwayne Wade from across, the bench after a play? Just like small things to add more context to a game that you wouldn't get if you weren't physically there.
Absolutely. You kind of mentioned something where I think is important, I guess, for the viewer that may not understand. A big motivation or part or inspiration of your stories are to connect the fans with the players, or to some degree. Can you explain kind of just how important? Well, one, how difficult. Let's be clear, how difficult that is, but also, how important is that to growing your following, but also more so just kind of bringing validity to your stories and kind of a different interest, kind of taking a different angle. Can you kind of explain why the significance of that?
Yeah, I would just say for me, the main motive is like I grew up playing sports. I didn't play in college. I didn't play professionally. I'm kind of better talking about basketball than I was at playing basketball. But I just grew up in a family of athletes. And then when I went to DePaul for undergrad, I was the manager for the women's basketball team. So I just think, and then like one day I just decided I wanted to get into media because I saw just like how obvious it was that there just needed to be more people that wanted to share the story of who the athlete actually was. Like, and just like some of the stories that they were never able to share. You just see so many athletes now that have podcasts or something of the sort. And they have all these wild stories that you would have never known because they didn't necessarily like have the platform. Or I'm not trying to like say anything about like any sort of reporter because there are wonderful beat reporters, sideline reporters, but to an extent, there's always some sort of layer of there wasn't somebody that they could share this storyline with or something. Or like someone that I really look up to is Taylor Rooks, how she's able to get really into depth with players and share stories that they've been playing in the league for 10 years already, but now there's a new story that nobody even knew of. So I just think it's important because I believe all these athletes are human first, athletes second.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that because in your kind of in your reporting, I've seen pieces that you've written before. A lot of that is displayed in your writing as well. I think you've built a unique voice, and that's one of the hardest things to do in a very vast, reporting world. You've been able to build a unique voice in a fast-paced kind of environment. What drew you, I guess, more so to like storytelling in women's basketball? And when did you realize this was your lane? Like, when did you realize this was probably going to be the most successful route to take? And, what drew you more so kind of to the storytelling aspect?
Yeah, I think some of it's just opportunity. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunity with just the expansion of the
Yeah,
WNBA. Clearly, the trajectory that it has right now, there are a lot more eyes surrounding the WNBA. But and again, like as a girl that grew up playing sports, watching sports, like I used to go to Sky games all the time when I was younger. But at that point in life, it was just viewed differently. It wasn't necessarily like my goal to become a WNBA player because all I was told is that you don't make a lot of money and you always had to have like two incomes basically to be able to play in the WNBA. So at that point in life, I was like, well, these are awesome women, but like it wasn't like a goal for me. But now just being able to see how all of that has changed and even just seeing young girls at the games and just getting like so excited to see their favorite players like the other day. or a couple of games ago now, there was like everybody was kind of caught off guard, but it was like these group of young girls and they were screaming at Haley Van Lith, but like in a positive way. Like they were just so excited to see her. And then obviously like people are always coming to see Angel. And it's just for me very rewarding experience to see young girls being able to look up to other women that are professional athletes. And I love supporting other women and I think it's nice. I'm basically the same age as a lot of the players, or younger or older than a few of them. And I also just like look like a lot of them. Like I'm obviously like I'm not out there on the court lacing up, but I look like a lot of them. So it's just a certain level of comfort, in my opinion, where it's just like I just feel like I'm somebody that they can talk to.
You mentioned because you kind of mentioned a couple minutes ago that you find relatability a lot between the WNBA. A lot of the girls are younger. You see yourself in them. They may be able to relate to you. However, you've also covered NCAA men's and women's basketball. You've done both. Now, when you're covering the men's game, is it a slightly different dynamic? Being a younger woman in a in a male dominated space. What is that kind of the difference between the NCAA either platform, more so covering there, versus like the pros and the kind of dynamics?
Truthfully, I feel like it's been the same. I think something that has really benefited me throughout my very short career so far, still in the very early stages of everything. But I would say I pride myself on being a very relatable person and somebody that people can connect with, even if it's in just a short conversation, just because I have very genuine interest in other people and their lives and their stories, and their abilities and what they're doing. So I think even, when in Syracuse in grad school, I didn't really care who else was there to ask questions. Like if I had a question, like, it's my priority to get in there. And it's definitely scary, don't get me wrong. Like, especially when you're doing these scrum settings and there's all these people, that was an adjustment. But I think, just understanding that I have a certain message that I want to get across as well. And obviously, I'm not going to be able to share that if I don't answer my question. So, or ask my question. So I think it's more of just I feel like I've been consistent across all platforms, like even when it comes to NCAA, high school coverage, professional. I can find a way to connect with every single person, no matter their age, background. And that's really where you get the most storylines.
You were at UIC. That was a pretty much pivotal point in your career prior to starting at the Sky. I want to ask, what did you learn? I want to say from UIC that you utilize in your reporting today.
So essentially, after I graduated from Syracuse,
Yeah.
I went to like Patriots training camp. That was my senior capstone. So I was there for all of training camp during the summer. And, obviously it dawned upon me. I was like, I need to get a job after this. So I was like applying to small stations in smaller markets, stuff like that. I feel like, the message that is told to most journalists of how to kind of begin your career. But I just wasn't really hearing anything back, and those jobs are really difficult to get. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to end up going back home after this. Let me email literally every school in the
Yeah.
city of Chicago and just say, hey, like I would love to be on your broadcast, do social media work, anything that where I can be in front of the camera and I can be getting reps. So while I'm figuring out what I want to do and still waiting to hear back from other jobs and applications that I've sent out places, I'm still prioritizing getting reps and I'm just not at home, just, twiddling my fingers until somebody responds to me. I've always been taught is to be persistent. And if you tell me no, I'm just going to find a different way to approach it, so that I can get to a yes, which sounded like kind of manipulative right there, but that's not the intention of it. But it's just like I have a very strong belief in myself and what I'm capable of doing. I just need a platform to do it and then being able to grow from there and showcase what my abilities are. So I had reached out to him. I was just like, and he said that there wasn't really a position. And I was like, oh, well, like I'm not necessarily really looking for money at the moment. Obviously, that would be great. But truly, I'm going back. I'm gonna live at home. My parents buy my groceries. I don't have to pay rent. I just need to like get some reps so that I can, figure myself out. And he was like, okay, yeah, like why don't you come to some of our social media days? And I was like, wonderful. So I went to the men's and the women's basketball social media days. I had went to like swim and dive and soccer too, but I was just like making content. And I was just doing like little fun mini interviews. I went and edited them later that day or whenever and sent them. And they were actually getting like good traction. So he was like, oh, like, we'd love for you to keep doing it. Would you also be interested in doing any analyst work for the women's basketball team this year? Like, we would love to have you in rotation. And I was doing that at Syracuse. So I was just like, yeah, like I would love to continue doing it. And again, just prioritizing getting those live reps, which was important for me. So then from there, I was doing the games. I really enjoyed doing the games. Everybody at UIC has been really wonderful to work with. And I don't know, I guess people ended up liking me. And so Phil had reached out to me this year, was saying, you had a lot of really good feedback. Like people really loved hearing you on the broadcast. Would you want to be like a full-time analyst for them this season? But I think, this is still prior to doing the Sky stuff.
Absolutely.
It was important knowing that what I was doing, people actually enjoyed my work. I think being able to hear from producers, Phil himself and fans, all of the above, that they liked what I was doing and they wanted to hear more of it, that gave me confidence to be like, okay, I'm on the right path. I just need to figure out where to pivot with this.
Just as a woman, let alone a minority woman covering professional sports, you know, you mentioned your confidence, right? How have you navigated being both visible and heard in spaces that always, let's just be real, just isn't welcoming, or aren't always as welcoming? If you could just speak on time, kind of the confidence you tap into, or whatever that belief is in yourself, because I think it's important.
I think from a young age, my dad told me that my path was going to be more difficult than others. And when I was younger, I didn't like fully understand that. I was just like, oh, okay, like why? Like why why does mine have to be harder than others? But once you start going through life, experiencing some things, I was like, oh, okay, this is what he meant, being a woman of color in certain spaces where some people will just kind of tell you no just because, and without any real reasoning as to why they're telling you no. And I feel like I've always just had to take that on the chin. And like, again, like to my point, I am somebody that has always created opportunities for myself. And that's something that I learned at a young age. So I have to give credit to my parents because I have never looked at something and be like, oh, well, there's nothing for me here. I can't do it. I am always trying to find new reasonings as to why should I convince people, or how can I convince people that I can be in this space and I can excel in this space. So, I mean, that started from high school, middle school, and then, obviously getting to college, especially being at Syracuse. I was in a space where it's like 20 broadcast students. We all want opportunities on campus. And I just feel like I've always given a reason as to why I should be chosen. And I also think that you don't get anything you don't ask for. I would come up with certain things, I would come up with certain ideas. People saying yes to all of them? No. However, like I was constantly showing initiative that I really wanted this and I'm going to find a way to get to it. Um, so I think a lot of it is just like believing in yourself, betting on yourself, and that is gained over experience. Lisa and Shimmy. I had went to shadow them literally the exact last home game of last season.
Okay.
I was still at school. I came back. I had got connected with Lisa, and I love Lisa and Shimmy so much, but I'll save that tangent. But I had gotten connected with Lisa while I was at Syracuse still, through another reporter, Angel Gray, who I had met from again just showing up and creating opportunities and asking to be at places. I had saw her at both the men's and women's ACC tournament while I was at Syracuse. I was the only person from my class. I'm not trying to like boast by any means, but I was the only person from my class that went attended the women's tournament, and then from which was in like Greensboro, North Carolina. And then right after that, I went to DC to cover the men's tournament, and I was there with like one other person in my class. But she saw, and again, it's so important because I knew, obviously, I knew who she was. So I went, connected with her. I didn't ask anything of her. I just went and said hello, like showed face. And then she saw that, I'm obviously at the women's and the men's tournament. So she was like, hey, like if you want to get coffee, we could do that and, just like talk about stuff. I was like, that would be wonderful. So through that conversation, and it's really funny, like, sorry, I'm going off on a whole tangent,
No, by all means, go ahead, go ahead.
but it's really funny because I remember when I was sitting in this coffee shop in DC with Angel Gray, like obviously I was elated. I was like, oh my gosh, like I love her work. This is great. But I was just telling her, like obviously I'm about to graduate. I don't really know what to do after this. And I'm trying to, just get some feedback from her, some inspiration. And I was like, I don't really want to go to a small market. I'm not against it, but I just like I don't know if that's the path that I want to take.
Yeah,
And she was like, my first ever sideline gig was a WNBA game. Like there should be no reason that it wasn't yours. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like I wasn't even thinking of that as a possibility. And so then she connected me with Lisa and was like, she does the play-by-play for the Sky. I would love to connect you two, and maybe you can. I know they don't have a sideline reporter right now, but maybe you guys can figure out how to get a sideline reporter going. And again, like this is at this point, I'm like, okay, this is really cool. In my head, it's a little bit of like wishful thinking. I'm like, oh, I'm straight out of school, and no one's gonna let me work with a professional team right
yeah,
away. But I was like, it doesn't hurt to try. I was able to connect with Lisa. I sent her like my reel and everything. And she just said that she saw a lot of potential in me. And whenever I came home to go and shadow the game with her and her wife, Shimmy, and, just like be able to finally meet because I'd only talked to her over the phone.
of course.
So again, like I went to literally the exact last game of their of their season last year. I was talking to both of them, and
Crazy.
Lisa was like, "You should present to the team president that you want to do sideline reporting for that next season." And when I tell you, and he is so lovely, but I was interviewing this man, or excuse me, emailing this man for months.
Yeah,
Like I am
they're
heavy
so
on the
hard to
phone.
get in touch with.
Sorry,
The, the execs, and they're so hard to get in touch with.
exactly. And like I know that. I know this man is very busy. So I'm just like, oh, okay, like I'm just gonna keep emailing him and setting up all these follow-up emails. And so, fast forward, I sent him my reel, everything that I was doing. I would update my reel, send it to him again, and be like, this is what I'm doing now. This is how I've improved. Hope all is well. I hope you're enjoying your summer. And so then he finally got back to me. He was like, hey, like, I'm so sorry. Obviously he lives a very busy life, but you come very highly recommended. We would love for you to do it this season. And I was just like jumping for joy.
Counts, but if you could sit down with any player one on one, past or present, who would it be and why?
Um, I would say Kyrie Irving. I love Kyrie.
Yeah,
Um,
Big Jersey.
I actually wrote my high school, or not high school, excuse me. I wrote my grad school essay about Kyrie and about kind of his misrepresentation in media to an extent and why I want to get into media to be able to, maybe provide athletes more platforms to give their side of the story on things, or also just, being able to look at situations like that in a neutral light, but also as a woman and a woman of color and just kind of again like that relatability aspect of things. I mean I've met Kyrie before. When I was in undergrad at DePaul, I was actually working with the Bulls. I was like a team attendant. And I mean, I saw a lot of the players all the time. Like I wasn't like I did I didn't really care after a while. I was just tired. Like I had gone to class, I had worked, and then I had to go to the games. I was just like, whatever, cool, you're here. But I just remember Kyrie was just so nice. Like anytime I handed him anything, a towel, water bottle, he said thank you. Like they could have been in the middle of um like a huddle. If I'm handing him something, he'll say thank you. And just like I remember he came up to the team attendants like before and after the game, like he was just like, "Hi, like how are you?" And I was like, "Oh, like I'm good. How are you?" Afterwards, he had thanked all of us. And like for me as somebody who already I already really enjoyed just like, his style of play and him as a person. But that was also like a very pivotal moment for me and like I really wanted to be a part of media because nobody could really, not nobody, but there's a lot of people that can't necessarily attest to the little things that he does like that is at least in the media space. And obviously that is where a lot of people get their information is through social media platforms in any way, shape, or form. A lot of those people don't have full access to players or like really key small moments like that. And, obviously after just some of the situations that he had faced, I remember, I think in my essay, I was just like, I just think it's important for, me as a person of color and being in this space of media to, in a sense, like kind of I'm gonna, I obviously have to say what's right and what's wrong as a journalist, but or I don't have to say, I just have to provide like, neutral coverage. But also just being able to actually allow players to speak out on those things. I felt like in a lot of circumstances, there's a lot of criticism that goes around players and, every little minute action that they have, everything that they do is just plastered everywhere. And I just think, again, it all went back to these are humans first, athletes second.
So being persistent and really finding your own path. And it's crazy how every person has a different story. There is no cookie cutter way to success, not at least not for reporters. And it's one that's inspiring, but I want people to know at home and the viewers how you really have to be your own boss, and you really have to, while kind of being blessed enough to have connections and people to stand up for you and go to bat for you, also have to be talented and also have to go, you got to be a hustler, and clearly that's what you've been doing, and it's led you down the right path. So, unbelievable, man. I do want to talk about because you've kind of I think me and you may be around the same age, so we've kind of have seen the W literally transition. I want to say I got into the W about 2019, and I remember going to Liberty games because I'm in the New Jersey, New York area. I remember going to the Liberty games, and there would be legit 15 people in the stands, right, or something crazy. And now seeing the rafters and everything just filled to the top. Last season we had to sell out every game, so and just everything, the money coming in now, commercials and now the TV branding. So I want to get your perspective from your view, literally courtside. How have you seen the WNBA's cultural impact evolve over the last few seasons, both on and off the court, to be honest?
I think it was funny because I was watching this TikTok as I would today. It
Yeah.
was about this it was basically this like girl going around interviewing like other women and men, but women first being like, how would you feel like if your man wore a WNBA jersey? And then basically going around turning and then asking men like, would you wear a WNBA jersey? And I feel like maybe like a couple years ago, first of all, that would never be a question to people.
Yeah.
Nobody would be like, oh, would you go purchase a WNBA jersey? People would literally for what? Um, so I think first of all, that's even being talked about basically to everyday people. Like even some like I have a family that's full of sports fans. I wouldn't say all of them always talked about the WNBA.
Of course.
Not that they didn't enjoy the WNBA, but obviously there are just so many more eyes around it. And people follow trends. So more people are watching it, so more people are talking about it. So naturally, it's popping up on their feeds more often. And I think it's interesting even seeing like my own family talk about the WNBA more, or knowing key players, or knowing players that some people wouldn't even really know, and like asking me about it, obviously, because they're always like, "Oh, do you know so and so?" But I just think people being curious about what is going on in the league in general is very impactful. Saying earlier, wearing WNBA jerseys, having Angel Reese on their backs,
Yeah.
um, it's just stuff like that. But I think something that I really love is watching some of the older women come into the arena, because there's just so much excitement for them. Like I see so many groups of older women hanging out with their friends, like so excited to be at the games. And it's just so fulfilling to me because they didn't have opportunities to see women excelling like this.
We're probably one of the most pivotal and probably one of the most prolific players in the league. However, you get to see a lot of the players up close and you get to see a lot of them play. My personal question to you is who's your current favorite player to watch and break down while they're playing? And also, who's one sleeper player you think people should be paying more attention to?
Specifically from the sky.
W.
Actually, I'm gonna make this sky specific since I see them literally all the time. Um, a player that I really love on the team, sorry about that. A player that I really love on the team, who I wish at times did get more recognition for what she's doing, is Rachel Banham. Because she was cold at Minnesota. Like
Yeah, yeah, she
was
was
one of
good.
the ones at Minnesota. And, she has been playing in this league for such a long time.
Yeah.
And I just think her positivity and energy, this is going to turn into me just like trying to hype up Sky players.
That's
But
fine. That's fine. I love it.
her positivity and her energy, she's also hilarious. But she just has like such a great sense of leadership for the team that I feel like sometimes goes unseen. And I think it is because, and it's no fault, and none of them would ever say anything like negative about it. But, when you have some of, these star rookies on your team or second year players on your team, it's easy for you to kind of, get, I don't want to say brushed under the rug, but you have your stars on the team that are household names. That's just what it is. But I just think she really does impact the game. And even just like again, from my point of view, being a sideline reporter, just seeing how if anybody's ever knocked down or if anybody's showing any signs of frustration on the court, she will go in and check on that player. And I've seen her do that multiple times. And I just think it's really wonderful to see, especially as a veteran, just trying to keep everyone very level-headed while also trying to maintain her own composure during the game. Um, so I enjoy Rachel a lot. I also love Ariel Atkins on the sky. Sorry, again, this is just turning into the sky. I love Ariel, and I think people don't recognize Ariel enough at times either, even though she did win a WNBA championship, but people wouldn't necessarily know that. However, I love mid-range. Like I love the mid-range game. I know it's maybe not as sought after anymore. Um, However, I think she does a really great job at it. I love her. She has a great little pull-up jumper. I think she does really well at attacking the paint. I really like her sense of play too. And as well, just like she's also one of those players that has so much composure. And just when you hear her speak, you're just like very naturally drawn in. Like she's just so articulate, and she always just has really great things to say, not only about how she's playing, but everyone around her. Um, so yeah, I would say I guess those can kind of be both. Like Rachel and Ariel, they could intermix between being somebody that I really like to watch, but also kind of one of those players that is like under the radar.
What do you think the next big trend in women basketball will be?
That's a good question because I'm very curious to see what it's going to look like with these expansion teams, if we will start expanding the roster.
Mhm.
Also, just kind of, with these CBA negotiations that players are having, what the season will look like next year. Will a lot of, key players really, in a sense, stand on business and be like, no, you guys aren't paying us enough or paying us what you owe us? We're not going to play, or just kind of these other leagues where you have like Athletes Unlimited, obviously Unrivaled was huge and did really well. If players are going to kind of lean to that more, because I mean, obviously Nafisa Collier speaks out about it so much, and she's the lead of those
Yeah.
stations. But even her just being like saying, like look at Unrivaled, not necessarily, and none of them want to, walk out on the WNBA season, but just kind of seeing the transition if they are going to lean a little bit, maybe less on the league and more on creating these like subdivisions of, their own game.
Talked about, the career a little bit. We talked about kind of your journey in your career. I want to kind of dive a little bit more into, your personal and kind of identity. Um, with a demanding schedule, because especially when you're the full-time reporter, sideline reporter, it's a lot of prep, I understand. And just like game days can be really exhausting from when you get in to when to when it's time to leave. Long days, so I get it. With a demanding schedule and a heavy content load, how does Kalia Butler find ways to not only stay present, but also rooted in her why?
I think I just really enjoy my job, honestly. Like to
Mhm.
keep it simple, when people, and I'm also still very early on in my career. So if you ask me 5 years from now and I'm covering a team or something, I might be exhausted, who knows? But I think I'm still very new. I'm still learning a lot. I'm still very eager, which I don't think I'll necessarily lose that drive, but it just may look different. But I enjoy waking up knowing that it's game day, being able to go to shoot around, talk to players, go back home, take some notes, eat lunch, come back to the come back to the arena, talk to more players, talk to coach again. It doesn't feel long to me. Like those are the days that I look forward to. Every other day during the week, like if I don't have a game, I'm honestly kind of bored. Like I'm trying to fill my time with other stuff. And obviously I have other passions and interests. But I genuinely like do look forward to it being game day just because it's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy the people that I work with. I enjoy the players and coaches that I, in a way represent or speak about. So I think it's really just enjoying what you do, which is a very cliche answer.
Just like, what do you want young girls watching you on the screen to kind of feel, when it's all said and done?
I think I would want young girls to feel that there's always space for them. I would say that. I feel like even when I was getting into this, I'm just like, oh, it's so saturated. There's so many people that want to be reporters. There's so many people that want to be journalists, especially in the sports field. Um, but I would just say that there is always a space for you, and your unique voice will always matter, just because we all bring such unique perspectives, and we all have different strengths and abilities. So being able to tap into that and just really hone deep and just really believing in yourself, I would say. If then when you look at Lisa and Shimmy, I mean, they're so cool. Like to put it simply, like Shimmy is a former college basketball player who's being able to be an analyst now. And she gets to do it alongside, and she's a woman of color, and she gets to do it alongside her wife. Who is literally the voice of the Milwaukee Bucks, who, she played soccer. So it's just there is a space for everyone in this. And I think just like sometimes looking, or even we have Jason Ross too, who is a man of color. but like we really touched a lot of areas. Like was representing women, men care about the WNBA too. Uh, our lead broadcasters are both women married to each other. Like we're covering the LGBTQ plus community, young. Like I just think we have a very unique broadcast where we just again, it kind of goes back to like the relatability, but also I think does a really good job at reflecting what the league looks like as well.
On a ton of different aspects of just your life, your career, and just kind of how your insight in general. To close out, I just want to ask you, what advice would you like to give anyone who admires or resonates with your story and is watching and supporting? What would you like to leave them with? And just for anyone that is a fan of you to hear, to hear your voice.
Yeah, it's kind of funny like hearing people be like, "Oh, anyone that's a fan of you." I'm just like, I just talk. um, I would just say I think it kind of just goes back to betting on yourself, and truly viewing confidence as a skill set. I think Kyrie said something about that too. But confidence really is a skill set that you have to build upon. I feel like it's one of those things that are just like daily deposits, whether you're looking in the mirror and telling yourself, you're awesome, you can do this. Just like I have so many things where it's just like, even during game days, like I'm still new to this. I still get nervous. But I'm just like, Clea, like you got this. You wouldn't be here if people didn't believe that you can do it, but also just being able to believe in yourself, knowing that you have the talent and skill set to do it. Um, so I think really just building upon your confidence. It's not always easy. I'm not necessarily confident every day. Sometimes I won't like how I said my first hit and then I'm irritated for like 3 full minutes of the game. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like again, just always building at your confidence. Um, I think that would be my biggest thing. Confidence will take you very, very far.
Absolutely. And I'm assuming you were speaking about imposter syndrome a little bit. I think
Mm.
a lot of people, especially early in their career, go through that. Even people, I know Shemi mentioned that she still gets imposter syndrome. She's more decorated than than more than most broadcasters would be. So it is normal, and that's like across every different field and every different profession. So, you did mention how important confidence can be, and I couldn't agree more. Without confidence, if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be hard for anyone else to believe in you. So, that's wonderful advice. And for the viewers at home, I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did speaking with Kalia. Thank you again for your time. I understand, I know how busy you truly are. And again, for She Got Game family, we really are honored to have you on. So we super appreciate you. Thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.